Welcome. Welcome to week 7 of MPAI 600 here at Georgetown University's Applied Intelligence Program. So just want to start off with announcements. Zoom session this Thursday, 5 July. I'm actually going to move it to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I know a lot of people were concerned about things running late, so I wanted to move it to 8 p.m. If that's an issue, if you're on the West Coast or you're in Hawaii, and I don't think anybody is, but if you are, let me know and we can make an adjustment. But we're going to do it at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'll give you reminders throughout the week for that, and I'll give you the link for the Zoom session. Just a reminder, again, groups 4, 5, and 6 will be briefing. I expect your briefing to be about 20 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes, with 5 to 10 minutes for questions at the end. I'm going to do a job talk at 9:30 that night to talk about, again, jobs and careers in the federal government. Please let me know when you acknowledge this if you will be attending that, so I know what you are, who I be talking to, and also let me know what your focus wants to be. If your focus is on entry-level positions, if your focus is on career transition, if your focus is mid-level positions with whatever intelligence or private contract, please let me know so I can tailor that a little bit in the briefing. So the final paper and final are due 10 July. That's, again, dates are coming up. That's the last day of the course. I want to just emphasize again, the final paper, if you are briefing, if you're in groups 4, 5, and 6, you will not be doing a final paper. Your briefing will be that assignment. Your final, everyone is doing, and that's 10 July, and I've released that. So if you have any questions, please let me know. So again, final is open book, open note, due 10 July. And then finally, course evaluations. Please do them. You should be getting a note in the next couple of days. This is only the third reiteration of this course, and I want to make sure that for future courses that we're hitting the mark for what students are looking for, and we're meeting students' expectations. If, in addition, I should also remind you that you will probably be taking a course with me in the future. I teach the counterterrorism course. If you're in that track, you'll probably see me again. So please let me know, sustains, improves, so I can better serve you when you come into the course or when I see you later in the program. And then finally, I don't mention it here, happy hour. I did get enough interest in that. I think there was a lot of interest. So look out for in late August. I'll send a note out. You'll probably be done with my class, but I think you'll be done. We'll try and do it before your fall semester classes come back up. So current events, Putin summit. So our president is meeting with Vladimir Putin. We can argue whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I just want to continue to emphasize that the Russians did hack into our election. And I think a lot of what the Russians did has been lost in the politics and some of the salacious details here. So I want to actually, just a quick reminder, the big impact the Russians did was they broke into the Democratic National Convention, and not only just broke in, but leaked sensitive proprietary information that ended up hurting Hillary Clinton and the DNC. They hacked into John Podesta, who was Hillary Clinton's campaign manager. They hacked into his Gmail accounts and, again, released the emails in a fashion on WikiLeaks that was harmful to the Clinton campaign. So the theme of one of the themes of this course is, okay, our intelligence should be driving reasonable countermeasures to prevent catastrophe. And I argue, and again, this is my opinion, that the DNC and John Podesta should have known that foreign intelligence services wanted to access their sensitive emails and their sensitive material. There was widespread precedent for Russians and Chinese trying to get into U.S. election apparatus. So they should have known, one. And two, there were reasonable countermeasures that could have prevented this catastrophic attack for, if you're a Democrat, from the Democratic side of the House. John Podesta could have put two-factor authentication on his Gmail. Some of you have that for your banks and for other programs as well. It's a pain in the ass, but it's not that bad. That's a reasonable countermeasure. The DNC, again, could have password protected key files. The head of the DNC could have used two-factor authentication on her email. These are reasonable countermeasures that I argue should have been employed. And again, you're going to have Russia hacking as one of your questions on your final, so it behooves you to start thinking about this. But again, one of the themes of the course, whether it's stopping 9/11, whether it's Pearl Harbor, or one of the historical case studies, was could reasonable countermeasures have been implemented to reduce risk catastrophically, or reduce catastrophic risk? And that's something I want you to take, not just in this course or on the final, but in your current jobs, whether you're working in the intelligence community, in the business community, working on cyber threats. Again, intelligence driving countermeasures is what everyone should be, is a large portion of this course, as well as your future career hopefuls. And I think the DNC and the Putin hack really highlights that issue. So paper 2, everyone should get their paper 2s back. Let me first by saying that if you briefed for assignment 2, please upload your briefing. I've given some people a grade, but I can't give everyone a grade unless there's a product in there. So please do that as soon as you're done watching this YouTube video. So some of the issues with the paper. Big thing, specificity in writing. Give me as specific as possible. If you're going to say groupthink was the cause of Iraq WMD, give me the meetings, the times, the locations where groupthink occurred, and show me that groupthink led to a false decision or a false piece of analysis. Be as specific as possible. Again, names, places, times. As I mentioned earlier, you're pointing the finger at somebody and saying it's your fault for 9/11 or Iraq WMD or what have you. Tell me as specifically where that person went wrong or that group went wrong. So again, everyone needs to take down their writing to a level of specificity that was lacking. Okay, so I don't mean to sound like your 10th grade English teacher, but passive voice. This sentence, the boy kicked the ball, is a passive sentence. It's direct object, verb, subject. Or I'm sorry, the bottom is a passive voice. The top is active voice. All right, subject, verb, direct object. All right, this is passive. Too many people did this in their sentences, and it takes away from your writing. I hate to do this because I'm, again, sounding like your 10th grade English teacher, but label, especially in tight sentences or tight 1,200 word essays, label your writing. Like label subject, verb, direct object, indirect object. And that will tell you what's passive, what's active. That's the only way to do that. And I know it's very, very pedantic, but that's the best way to eliminate passive voice from your writing, is if you identify subject, verb, direct object, indirect object. Economy of words. Another exercise to use. Try and eliminate prepositional phrases from your writing. You can't, because we all need prepositional phrases, but if you have too many prepositions, it takes away from your writing. So again, and that leads to long run-on sentences where you lose the focus of the reader. So try and shorten your sentences, use less prepositions to try and get your points across. These 2 points, eliminating passive voice, trying to economize your words so you can make a point a lot more clearer, will make your writing twice as better if you could just follow those 2 rules. And I'll go as far as if the only thing you learn from this course is following those two rules, then I think you've actually done pretty well for this program. I think you took enough to make your writing better. So again, I saw a lot of that in the essays. Show me how the failure contributed to the intelligence failure. Show me that was the decisive variable. If you tell me the 2015 Bataclan theater attacks were caused by the EU failing to share information, you have to tell me, again, go into specificity to show me that if they shared this piece of intelligence, it would have prevented the 2015 attack. You can't just say there's organizational issues with the European Union's intelligence apparatus. You can't just say that and leave it there. You have to take it down a level to show me specifically how that caused the intelligence failure. If you say, again, a lot of people mentioned 9/11 was a strategic failure. Okay, fine. There's certainly a lot of agreement there, but you have to show me, you have to get from the strategic failure to actual countermeasures that would have prevented 9/11. You've got to walk that argument down to that level. It's not enough to say that intelligence should be organized better, it should share information better, collection should be more professional. You've got to be, again, specific to trace down how curveball and the human failures there actually got into the assessments that drove decision making in Iraq WMD. So again, get down to that level, and those are some of the issues with the paper that I saw. So reviewing previous week, lone wolves, gaps between indicators and arrestable activity. This actually kind of bleeds with week 5 and week 6, and bleeds to the Maryland, Annapolis, Maryland shooting that we had this past week. And so the question is, what do we do between that gap for lone wolves, between people who do something that is criminal or not criminal level arrestable, but are still on the radar of law enforcement? And this, again, brings up the gun control issue. And I'll let you decide whether, wherever you are on the gun control perspective. But if you could prevent people who are on the radar from accessing guns, again, whether that's Nidal Hassan, whether that's the Orlando shooter, whether it's that guy, again, in the Maryland shooter who was very open on his social network about how much he hated the newspaper, if you could restrict his ability to get guns, that is a way to stop or to close the gap between what's arrestable and what's on the radar for being bad activity. Now, yes, NRA is going to go nuts. Other gun rights organizations are going to go nuts if you say, well, I'm going to stop you from owning a gun because you had nefarious social network posts. In my terrorism class, we're going to talk a lot about what type of speech goes beyond free speech into threatening speech. But that probably will take you 50% of the way if you can limit access to unstable actors or radicalized actors to guns. This week, CompStat, was it the decisive factor? It was a focusing factor for police authorities for criminal activity. It gave accountability, supposedly, to police captains, precinct captains. But it also perverted incentives, and you read about altered reports to meet CompStat requirements. And then finally, we talked about the decline in crime. I think 80% of you said that decline in crime was due to better police, intelligence-driven law enforcement, more information technology used for criminal activity. But there could be other factors for the decline in crime. In the book Freakonomics, it's argued that legalization of abortion was the decline in crime. Steven Pinker, who wrote a book called The Better Angels, argues that we have just become civilized in society, that we realize that crime doesn't pay, or a lot more people have done that. And that has led to the massive decline in crime that we saw in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Others would argue the demographic factors, that the baby boomers aged out of their prime crime committing activity in their 20s and teens, and that led to the decline in crime. So you have to ask the question, is CompStat or better criminal activity the reason for the decline in crime? And then, so I'm going to send an article about facial recognition, but to argue, one of the arguments to make, whether it's CCTV, forensics, what have you, that you saw in the Boston Marathon documentary, are these post-incident activities, or can they actually be used to prevent crime? And I'll let you think about that. But again, I'll send an article about facial recognition and how that led to the solving of the Maryland attack, or the Annapolis, Maryland attack from this past week. So previewing week 7, business intelligence. For intents and purposes, business intelligence is how to achieve some sort of market dominance for whatever business or industry you were looking for. In future classes, if you're in the business intelligence track, you're going to talk about risk, you can talk about analytics, you can talk about physical security or business security. For this class, just look about business intelligence, how to position a business in the market so it can achieve higher market share. You can get an interview by Dr. Gilad, who's one of the pioneers of business intelligence. And when you're thinking about it, when you're going through the readings and going through the interviews, think about businesses that operate in the same space and why one dominates and the other doesn't. If you're here in the DC area, CVS has definitely dominated Walgreens and other drugstores, dominated Walgreens and Rite Aid to become the dominant player. Why? They're selling the same product, same services. Why does CVS emerge while others do not? Why is Best Buy around while Circuit City is in the ash heap of history? And then think about applications to national security issues, because again, I know a good portion of this class is not in the business intelligence track, but I think the lessons learned, the identified variables, can definitely be applicable to the national security space. So I appreciate everyone's inputs, and I look forward to seeing everyone on Thursday.